Before the tweet, before the fallout, there was a question no one was asking out loud. Why would Sylvester Stallone suddenly draw a hard line against someone who stood beside him as an action icon for decades? The silence only made it stranger, until one public message shattered it all, calling Bruce Willis greedy and lazy. Fans assumed it was just ego, money, or Hollywood drama. But now, Stallone is finally explaining what really happened, and why he refused to work with Willis ever again. To understand how everything unfolded, it helps to go back to the beginning. Sylvester Stallone was born on July 6, 1946, in Hell's Kitchen, New York City, an environment that matched the hardship he would face early in life. His mother, Jackie Stallone, was a women's wrestling promoter, while his father, Frank Stallone Sr., was an Italian immigrant hairdresser. From birth, Stallone's life took a difficult turn. A botched forceps delivery damaged a facial nerve, leaving part of his face paralyzed, an injury that caused the slurred speech and drooping lip that later became his trademark. As a child, he was relentlessly bullied for it, pushing him toward bodybuilding and acting as a way to build confidence and toughness. His early years were unstable. Stallone spent time in foster care, moved frequently, and lived through his parents' divorce. The family relocated from New York to Maryland, and then Washington, D.C., where his parents opened small businesses before separating. After initially living with his father, Stallone moved to Philadelphia at 15 to live with his mother. School was no refuge. He was misunderstood, labeled a troublemaker, and even voted most likely to end up in the electric chair by classmates. Still, the ambition never faded. He attended several schools, including Military Academy, before drifting through college, first at Miami-Dade College, then the American College of Switzerland, always pulled toward acting. In 1967, he returned to the U.S. and studied drama at the University of Miami. Money was scarce, the future uncertain, and graduation didn't come until decades later, when the school awarded him a degree based on his body of work. Before fame arrived, Stallone took whatever roles he could, sometimes using the name Mike Stallone. He acted in small stage productions and low-budget films, chasing experience rather than prestige. In 1970, desperation led him to accept a role in the softcore film The Party at Kitty and Studs, earning just $200. Sylvester Stallone accepted his earliest controversial roles for one simple reason: survival. Broke, evicted, and sleeping in a bus station, he later admitted he felt trapped, saying it was either take the work or hit rock bottom completely. Years afterward, that early film was rebranded to capitalize on his fame, a reminder of just how desperate those days had been. Around the same time, he appeared in a stage play that later became a film and shared a tiny New York apartment with his girlfriend, Sasha Chak, who supported them by working as a waitress while he scraped by on odd jobs, from zoo work to theater ushering. Despite the instability, Stallone kept chasing acting wherever he could find it. He read constantly, haunted libraries, and absorbed writers like Edgar Allan Poe, even as success seemed distant. By the early 1970s, he was landing tiny, often uncredited roles in major films, barely visible on screen but steadily gaining experience. A turning point came when a casting agent spotted him in a small stage production and offered him a leading role in The Lords of Flatbush. Though the film took years to complete, it finally gave Stallone his first real visibility and kept his ambition alive. By 1975, he was still struggling, stacking small film and television appearances while watching opportunities pass him by. Then inspiration struck after he watched Muhammad Ali fight Chuck Wepner. Within days, Stallone poured everything into a script called Rocky, refusing to sell it unless he could play the lead himself. Studios pushed back, but he stood firm. When Rocky was released in 1976, it became a phenomenon, earning critical praise and multiple Oscar nominations, and transforming Stallone's life overnight. That breakthrough opened the door to an era-defining career. He followed Rocky with another iconic character, John Rambo, and soon became one of the biggest action stars of the 1980s and 1990s. Decades later, returning to both Rocky and Rambo, and finding renewed acclaim with Creed, Stallone proved that his rise wasn't luck. It was the result of years of endurance, rejection, and an unshakable refusal to quit. Stallone's career didn't slow down with age, it expanded. He stepped into the Marvel Universe as Stakar Ogord, appearing in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 and later returning in Volume 3, proving he could move effortlessly from gritty dramas to cosmic superhero worlds. At the same time, he was building something rooted firmly in his own legacy, a place where the action heroes of the past could stand shoulder to shoulder again. That vision became The Expendables. In 2010, Sylvester Stallone wrote, directed, and starred in the film, assembling a cast that felt like a reunion of action royalty. Jason Statham, Jet Li, Dolph Lundgren, Terry Crews, Mickey Rourke, and others joined him, with cameo appearances from Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger. The movie opened strong at the box office and became the biggest debut of Stallone's career, even as behind-the-scenes financial disputes surfaced later. The franchise grew with The Expendables 2 in 2012, which earned better reviews and added new faces like Chuck Norris and Jean-Claude Van Damme. That same year, Stallone showed another side of his creativity by helping develop a Broadway musical based on Rocky. He stayed active throughout the decade, starring in films like Bullet to the Head, reuniting with Schwarzenegger in Escape Plan, and sharing the screen with Robert De Niro in Grudge Match. By 2014, The Expendables 3 brought in even more stars, including Wesley Snipes, Antonio Banderas, Mel Gibson, and Harrison Ford. The film underperformed, but the message was already clear. Stallone wasn't just revisiting his past, he was curating it. Even when some projects missed the mark, Sylvester Stallone never lost his standing in Hollywood. He was widely regarded as an action icon who reshaped what movie heroes looked like, yet he was never afraid to step outside that image. Comedies like Oscar and Stop, or My Mom Will Shoot didn't become classics, but they showed his willingness to take risks. In 1997, he surprised critics with Copland, transforming himself into an overweight small-town sheriff and delivering one of his most restrained performances. The role earned him renewed respect and proved his range went beyond muscle and bravado. In recent years, Stallone has continued to evolve. He returned to prominence on television with the crime drama Tulsa King in 2022, introducing himself to a new generation of viewers. Outside of acting, he paints, collects art, and has written about health and fitness, creative outlets that reflect a quieter side of a man once defined solely by action. From writing Rocky in a matter of days to leading blockbuster franchises decades later, his career has been driven by persistence and reinvention. His personal life, however, has been far more turbulent. Stallone has been married 3 times and has experienced both deep joy and profound loss. He married photographer Sasha Sack in 1974, and they had 2 sons. Their eldest, Sage Stallone, died tragically in 2012 at age 36 from heart disease. Their younger son, Sergio, was diagnosed with autism as a child. The marriage ended in divorce in 1985. Later that year, Stallone married actress Brigitte Nielsen, a high-profile union that lasted only 2 years but drew intense media attention. In the late 1980s, he met model Jennifer Flavin. After a complicated period marked by broken engagements and public scrutiny, Stallone and Flavin reunited and married in 1997. Together, they raised 3 daughters, Sophia, Sistine, and Scarlett, who later shared the spotlight as Golden Globe ambassadors. After more than 25 years together, Sylvester Stallone and Jennifer Flavin faced a public scare in 2022 when court records showed Flavin had filed for divorce. The news shocked fans, but the split didn't last. Within a month, the couple reconciled and chose to stay together, signaling that, even with setbacks, their bond was still intact. Some relationships in Stallone's life, however, never wavered. He has remained close to his younger brother Frank Stallone, whose music and occasional on-screen appearances became a quiet but constant part of Stallone's career. Frank contributed songs to several of his brother's films and even appeared briefly in the Rocky series, staying connected to the work without chasing the spotlight. The family also endured deep loss. In 2012, Stallone lost his half-sister Toni Ann Felitti to lung cancer, just months before the death of his son Sage, a devastating year that marked one of the darkest chapters of his life. Friendships weren't immune to strain either. Stallone once shared a close bond with actor Joe Spinell, but tensions during the filming of Nighthawks in 1981 ended their collaboration. Spinell's death in 1989 closed the door on any chance of reconciliation. Behind the scenes, Stallone's commitment to realism came at a physical cost. Known for performing his own stunts, he suffered serious injuries over the years. From breaking a finger while filming Escape to Victory with Pelé to landing in intensive care after a real punch from Dolph Lundgren during Rocky IV. On The Expendables, a fight scene with Steve Austin resulted in a broken neck and surgery. The scars tell the story of how far Stallone was willing to go for authenticity. Proof that the toughness audiences saw on screen often came with real pain behind it. Not every chapter of Sylvester Stallone's life has been triumphant. Alongside fame, he has faced serious legal disputes and public controversies that complicated his image. One of the earliest surfaced in 2001 when a woman named Margie Carr filed a civil lawsuit alleging sexual assault at a Santa Monica gym. Stallone denied the accusation, and his legal team argued the claim was unsubstantiated. The case did not result in criminal charges. In 2007, Stallone encountered legal trouble overseas when Australian customs officials discovered vials of human growth hormone in his luggage. He later pleaded guilty to possession, explaining it was for personal health reasons, and the matter was resolved in court. Years later, renewed scrutiny followed reports of a decades-old financial settlement involving his half-sister, Toni Felitti, who had accused him of abuse before her death. Stallone denied the allegation, and conflicting accounts from family members kept the issue unresolved in the public eye. Additional accusations emerged between 2016 and 2017, involving claims of sexual misconduct dating back to the 1980s and 1990s. Stallone denied all allegations. In one instance, his former wife, Brigitte Nielsen, publicly supported his account, while witnesses disputed the claims. Law enforcement reviewed the cases, but prosecutors ultimately declined to file charges, citing insufficient evidence. Stallone later reported that at least one accuser had provided false information in official filings. Through decades of stardom, Stallone's life has moved between admiration and controversy, resilience and scrutiny. From enduring serious on-set injuries to navigating courtrooms and headlines, his story has never been simple. And yet, among all these chapters, one relationship would later draw particular attention, not in court, but in public view: his fractured bond with fellow action star Bruce Willis. Sylvester Stallone and Bruce Willis were once not only two of Hollywood's biggest action stars, but also genuine friends. Their relationship deepened when Willis joined The Expendables in 2010, a film Stallone wrote and directed that reunited many legends of the genre. Willis appeared as Mr. Church, a shadowy CIA figure whose brief but memorable role added weight to the story. The movie was a success, and when The Expendables 2 followed, Willis returned without issue. On the surface, everything seemed solid. Behind the scenes, however, tensions quietly formed. When it came time to plan The Expendables 3, Stallone wanted Willis back once more and reportedly offered him $3 million for a few days of work. Willis was said to have asked for $4 million instead. To Stallone, the extra demand crossed a line. What might have remained a private disagreement quickly turned public when Stallone posted a blunt tweet calling someone greedy and lazy. He never named Willis, but the message was unmistakable. Stallone promptly replaced Willis with Harrison Ford, signaling that the decision was final. The fallout wasn't just about money. It touched pride and trust. Willis chose not to respond publicly and quietly exited the project. Around the same period, he also declined to join Stallone in Escape Plan, a role that ultimately went to Arnold Schwarzenegger. Stallone moved forward without him, and the partnership appeared over. Time eventually softened the conflict. In 2014, Stallone returned to social media, this time to apologize and confirm that he and Willis had reconciled. In 2022, the story between Bruce Willis and Sylvester Stallone took a heartbreaking turn. Willis was diagnosed with aphasia, a condition that affects speech and understanding, and his family announced he would step away from acting. The news stunned Hollywood and left fans around the world grieving the loss of one of cinema's most recognizable voices. Stallone was deeply moved. In interviews, he spoke openly about how painful it was that Willis had become difficult to reach, admitting the silence killed him. Any past tension between them suddenly felt meaningless. Stallone offered public support, praised Willis's strength, and expressed heartfelt concern for his family, showing that their bond ran deeper than old disagreements. Their careers had always followed different paths, Stallone passing on Die Hard before Willis turned it into a cultural phenomenon, but they shared an understanding of what it took to survive at the top. Business once damaged that friendship, especially after the Expendables 3 fallout, a moment Stallone later said he regretted handling so harshly. By 2025, Stallone speaks of Willis only with compassion. Though they no longer work together and can no longer communicate as before, what remains is a quieter, more respectful connection, one shaped not by rivalry, but by time, empathy, and shared history.